All right, week 6 in the college football season is in the books. We are past the halfway point of the year. We are having more rivalry games. We're having more crucial conference games, and things are heating up once and for all as we get closer to the college football playoff. Let's talk about week 6 here on today's productive conversation with Nico and Alex. What's up, guys?
How we doing? Glad to be back.
Absolutely thrilled. So why don't we talk about and kick it off with what could be a classic in this classic rivalry? The Battle of Red River took place on Saturday afternoon. Oklahoma versus Texas, a true back and forth battle. Both seasons on with huge implications on the season for both teams, both on the line. The undefeated matchup went down to the final 90 seconds as Oklahoma storms down the field and knocks off Texas with a huge victory. And what could happen from here? It looks like Oklahoma now makes some strides up the ranks, and it looks like Texas is now in jeopardy for a college football spot, knocking them out of that position as they were coming in at third this past Saturday. So, what do we think about this game, and who has the more interesting rest of the season after the fact?
Yeah, arguably the best game of college football all season so far. Just so fun to watch as a viewer. Unbelievable from the start to finish. The rivalry's back. Everyone that said Texas fell off, which they did, and now they're back, and Oklahoma's always been around in recent memory, but I'm glad to see this rivalry's back. I'm glad with both teams going to the SEC. This rivalry is going to continue. Cotton Bowl, that was the Cotton Bowl. We watched an old school matchup, and it was just phenomenal to see. Something I do want to mention is the biggest loser for this matchup is not Texas or obviously not Oklahoma. It's Alabama. This is a tough. Alabama needed Texas to win this game, which makes it very hard coming up in the months. Texas can easily win out the rest of the season, and come committee time, it's going to make it interesting. But hey, hats off to Oklahoma. Played their ass off. Now they're going to get the credit they deserve. Glad to see this rivalry is back. It is back to what we wanted it, and I look forward to this game every year, and I'm just so happy it delivered.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like in years recent past, either OU's been up and Texas was down, the years with Charlie Strong, or Texas was up but still didn't fulfill promises kept, and Oklahoma was down. So, we had questions about how good this OU team was going to be post Lincoln Riley. I thought this game delivered and brought it back to like the true, like classic days when these two teams were at their pinnacle. And it was just like it was like a Madden game. I mean, it was just offense all around, all over the place. I will say that it kind of secured my original instinct that Texas was not a real three, and we talked about it in last week's episode. And I believe even without losing in the fashion they did to OU, I think that this revealed a lot about where they rank in that hierarchy with the top four teams in the country. So I think that not only did OU win out this game, but also the Big Ten won this game as well, because now it makes the whole field remaining look a lot better and more sexy for the selection committee.
More sexy. Who do you prefer if you had to pick of those four? I'm sorry, if the college football playoff is set, we have 3 teams in, and it went down to Oklahoma and Texas, who would you personally choose to get into that spot?
They have to say Oklahoma after this performance. With a win, a head-to-head win, 100% Oklahoma all day. Granted, Texas might have a more impressive resume if it came down to both teams have one loss at the end of the year, but I'm a big believer in a head-to-head matchup, and I think a head-to-head should weigh great dividends to the committee in Oklahoma. If they were both at that point one-loss teams at that point in the year, Oklahoma deserves it.
Is the question, just to be clear, is the question who is the better team at the end of the year, or who is better prime positioned for the playoff?
It's more just who do you think is more deserving of that spot?
I think OU is definitely more deserving of that spot, but I think if they were to meet again, theoretically, that Texas would wipe them. I think that this was definitely a rivalry game, but it's very hard to repeat that 2 times in a year. So I think that if they were to run it back, I think Texas would win very handily.
All right, I respect it. Good stuff. So we had Colorado get back to their winning ways. The over-under number in their future bets was 3.5, and they officially accomplished that already in mid-October. Again, I feel definitely the hype train for Colorado has died down on a national level, but they're still worthy of watching, still worthy of following and seeing where they will end up in the bowl season, which are clearly on track to getting to at least. But how do you feel about this point? And this game could have gone either way against a struggling Arizona State team. But what comments now that what do we think about the state of Colorado's program at this point? Now that the hype is down, and people could really focus on them and where they're going for their conference the rest of the way through, and of course, just Dion being Dion. We'll keep seeing him in commercials. Press conferences will always be viral, and now we could just see where they really will go at with not having as much of a microscope on them.
Well, they definitely simmer down. They're closer to where I think their realistic expectations are, which is a little better than above 500. I've definitely backed off the bandwagon because I think not only did that USC game humble them, but I've seen some of their offensive woes start to reemerge. I'm looking at the numbers, and Arizona State won this game on paper, and I think this could have gone either way with the flip of a coin or a turn of the ball. So they're very fortunate to win this game. A win is a win, but they have a lot of room to improve, and Dion's just going to keep being Dion. But they're gonna have a tough stretch the remainder of the season as well. They got a lot of ranked opponents all remaining through the Pac-12, and they just got to keep trucking along and getting better incrementally by the week.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, I might go on a little bit of a rant here, not trying to sound like a hater. I am sick and tired of hearing about this football team. The program's revived. It's great. It's back. Recruiting's gonna be great. Glad to hear. You're beating a 1-4 Arizona State team by a field goal. Like, why are we? I know it's not us. It's everywhere. Everywhere you go on ESPN. Colorado, prime time. I get it. He draws attraction. I am sick of it. I hate talking about mediocrity. Why are we talking about mediocrity? Why aren't we talking about Northwestern? Why aren't we talking about Iowa? I get we're not talking about it because of prime time factor, and I get it. But I am so sick of hearing about this overrated football team week after week after week. I'm not trying to say a Colorado hater. I'm so happy and so excited what they're going to bring in the next 5 years. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. But as of right now, we're talking about a team who's might not even make a bowl game. They might not get 6 wins. This is absurd. I know they hit their win total, I know everything, but everywhere you look, ESPN, Fox Sports, Twitter, Barstool, anywhere, Colorado. Enough's enough. Let's move on. Let's focus. We're in week 6, going on week 7 now. Let's focus on the big boys and let's play some football.
But do you think
the opposite? I thought Alex was going to have that type of reaction, and it was Nico.
Well, that's why I said they're going to regress towards the mean, where they're going to be a little better than above 500 because the Dion train simmered a little bit. But my question to you, Nico, is, with that being said, them remaining in the spotlight, don't you think that they're due some of this retributional type of backlash? Because now it's going to be in full force on display to the whole world when they get blown out by Oregon or Washington or whomever.
Yeah, no, I'm not someone that's necessarily rooting against them, where I don't want to say they deserve that backlash, but the reason why they do deserve the backlash has nothing to do with Colorado. It has to do with the media hyping them up all the way. So you know what? You live to the hype, and now you're going to get embarrassed. So you're going to get a double-edged sword there of exactly what's happening. But also to answer your question as well, I think for a recruiting aspect and what they're doing is phenomenal. But I wonder what these recruits are going to think when they're sitting there and they're like, yeah, it's great. It's great. The swagger's great, everything. But when you see them in these next couple of weeks losing these games, playing in Washington, you saw whoever, I don't have it in front of me, but what's coming up in the next few weeks, I just really don't think, if I'm sitting there, going to be like, am I going to want to go and play in for a 6-6 team? Or am I going to go to Alabama and the Georgias of the world and continue to be almost guaranteed a spotlight week in and week out?
Man, I really think
they have to dominate Stanford at home. That should be a gimme, but nothing's a gimme in this league. UCLA will be definitely tough, and then Oregon State, even at home, is going to be tough. So, and the Pac-12 is definitely better than we expected, but they're going to meet their match. So,
I honestly think they will be getting that much of be that popular of a recruiting class. There's that much pizzazz in there, and people just love everything Dion and stuff like that. So only time will tell, but I really do think in just a year that team's going to look completely different with that aspect. And we'll see also if they can we'll also see if they can prove it with their pocketbooks as well. So good times ahead indeed. Okay. Why don't we move on to Michigan? Michigan has Jim Harbaugh back. Early part of the season had nothing but scrub teams and eating them up. The season's about to get more tougher. Michigan is at number 2. Are we sold on Michigan? Yes or no?
In what context are we sold? They're a shoe-in to win the Big Ten, or just to go to the championship?
Shoe-in to win a Big Ten, and if they will be in the college football playoff.
Well, they'll definitely be in the college football playoff, but I still stand by my position that it's still open whether the crown for the Big Ten is up for grabs. Now, I was definitely impressed with what I saw from Ohio State this weekend. I thought they had another statement game because I actually do believe that Maryland is a pretty formidable opponent, at least on paper. But again, we have to see what happens with Penn State coming off their bye. I still stand by them as being the current favorite as of week 6 going into week 7. And they should dominate UMass and hopefully, the 21st and they play in Columbus. That's going to be a statement game. That's going to decide where the cards fall, where the chips fall. So
yeah, I mean, great win by Michigan. Obviously doing exactly what they have to do versus a Minnesota team, just manhandling them. Looks great in the eyes for a committee down the road if we get there. But Alex brought it up last week. This is just a crash course from Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. They're all running. They're all going to cannibalize themselves. It's going to be it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like, it is happening. It's coming up in the next few weeks. Where I think Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State are all on the same wavelength platform right now, where they are very well aware that they're the best teams in the Big Ten and anything can happen. With that being said, I think Michigan has proved that they are the best so far. I'm also a little biased with Harbaugh, but I really do think Michigan knows what they have to do. They're going to keep dominating these games versus Minnesota, dominate these games versus Northwestern, wins like that. And they have Ohio State, obviously, last game of the season, but they got Penn State before that. I really think we might be in a situation where all 3 Big Ten teams are 1-1. Well, I have one loss. Ohio State, I can see Penn State beating Michigan, but Michigan beating Ohio State and Ohio State beating Penn State, and it's going to be a real gray area come late December when they have to sit on that cold winter night and figure out who's going to get into the playoffs.
Now, here's a hot take. Here's a wild card question. Which coach of the 3, Ryan Day, Franklin, or Harbaugh, has the most to prove during this run towards the end of the season?
So right now, I will say Franklin, and the reason why I say that is because my expectations are just so low of him to begin with. He went to East Stroudsburg University. I went there for a year, so I have I respect him in that matter, but definitely just think I'm still think this Penn State team is the best team in the Big Ten, arguably one of the best teams in the country, obviously. But I just am very fearful that James Franklin is going to lose this team its season. I don't know how he's going to do it. He's going to either run the ball on a 4th and 5 play to win a game like he did against Ohio State a couple years ago, and he's going to do something that just can't happen. And but same question back to you. Like, who has in your mind between the 3?
Well, I think that Ryan Day is definitely playing with the worst hand, in terms of cards. But I think Harbaugh has the most to prove. If Ohio State, which is their boogeyman, is out of the field or out of contention for the playoff by the end of the year, there is absolutely no excuse at all in my opinion that Harbaugh should not win the whole thing around the table. I don't think Georgia is as good as people say. I think they're a really soft number one seed, and they could be beat. Michigan's won in more dominant fashion, and if he's going to solidify himself during his return here to Michigan, he has to win it this year. Like I said it during the pregame. During the season preview. But I think there's the most upside for James Franklin for the reasons that we said. But I think that there's no question that Harbaugh is the most approved.
Yeah, I'm going with Harbaugh as well. Need to get another win against Ohio State. Seems like you have the best roster you've had in years for this. And for somebody who always wants to flirt with going back to the NFL, it would mean a lot to that community, the alumni and the college football world, if you're going to actually bring back that national championship and don't seem like a coward like that.
What do you think those all-time ratings would be if Michigan and Ohio State met in the playoff during the first round?
Unbelievable.
Record-breaking.
They're going to be – that's must-see TV.
Unbelievable.
Big neutral site game, too. And bring those two fan bases together. It'll get people talking for sure. No doubt.
That would break the internet.
So what do we just think about Georgia Tech, the unranked Georgia Tech, knocking off the 17th ranked Miami Hurricanes, and in a game where the U had it won, all they had to do was take a knee and to run out the clock with less than a minute to go, decided to run the ball, have a crucial takeaway, and it led to Georgia Tech going down the field, going to win it on a touchdown. And a lot of people are seeing the U is on their way to becoming back to a powerhouse for the first time since like the early 2000s, where they were the U. And an embarrassing loss like that does make it go backwards. They were having an undefeated season up to that point. How bad is this loss?
Can't happen. It just plain and simple can't happen. Just take just take a knee. All you have to do is take a knee. It is ridiculous. Like, how are we in 2023 in analytics are such a big factor, and you don't know when you could take a knee and when you cannot? I think Mario and I think he should have walked off the field. I think he should have turned in his resignation letter. I would not go back and face my players after that game. The fact that you have a team where you, like, if there's a fumble snap or something crazy like that on a knee, that's one thing. But this is ridiculous. This can't happen. I think if someone goes to their job, like a regular 9 to 5, and you make a mistake this crucial, you should be fired on the spot. And I think this is, granted, he's coached at Oregon and he's not a bad coach and all this stuff. This is inexcusable. There's nothing that you can do to ever come back from this. In my opinion, this is like not taking a knee. It's 2023. What are we doing? How don't you know these things? Like, how are you a D1 coach at one of the most prestigious universities in the country, and you're not going to take a knee to end out that game? Hats off to Georgia Tech, though. Getting the ball back, making the best out the opportunity. I was really excited to see them go on and win that game. That was one of my favorite bets last week. I'm getting 19.5, but I never expected them to win that game outright.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I thought this was like a classic mulligan for Miami. There's no excuse about the way that they executed at the end of this game. You're absolutely right. Don't want to be a dead horse. You got to take a knee and close this out and get the W, especially at home. I mean, unbelievable. But I will say that there is still contention and hope. I mean, obviously they're not contending for the playoff, but just in terms of the hierarchy, the way the ACC shakes out, I think that they could recoup some of their loss with they have enough matchups remaining on the schedule where they could get quality wins to put themselves back in that conversation within a top 10 team. If they beat UNC, which is a tall order, going to North Carolina, and then you have a home game at Clemson, but then you have Florida State November 11th. Those are statement games where there's a lot of potential, and even Louisville at home hosting them. So there's an opportunity to get back on track. But in terms of their ceiling for this season, it's definitely a top 10 finish would be a good demarcation for Cristobal and getting back into their old winning ways like they were back in the 90s.
Only time will tell with that, right?
Yep.
So And very disappointing. Another very disappointing loss that took place in the world of college football was the fact that Georgia fell to Louisville, as you mentioned, 25th ranked Louisville and 7th ranked Notre Dame. And it ended with Louisville not being intimidated whatsoever, getting the upset victory. Sam Hartman did not play well. He was pressured. He had a bunch of takeaways, and he killed any chance he had for being a Heisman Trophy winner. And any chance Notre Dame had for making the college football playoff, really the bad second loss. What do we think about this? For me, for somebody who had high hopes on Sam Hartman at the beginning of the year, does stink to see what happens. And no excuses for him either. If you are going to be a top player in this country, if you are going to be a huge prospect going to the NFL, if you're going to be sticking out amongst this great potential quarterback class, you can't lose these games. You can't fold under pressure like that. And it seems like that was the case. So it is what it is. And if you're him, just run the table, win the rest of the games of the year, win the rest of your games this year, still kick some ass. I mean, get some Heisman Trophy votes. Doesn't seem like it's likely at this point, and prove why you want to be an NFL draft pick.
Yeah, definitely a black eye for my batting average when it comes to picks for this season. I was starting to kind of drink the juice that Matt was putting down early in the season. I liked what I saw even in a tough loss with Ohio State at home. I thought they really had the right energy in the direction where they wanted to go. I still believe in this coach. I think that Louisville just showed up that day. I think they're a little better than what was advertised, but it was still completely unexcusable how they came out and started that game. They got way behind, in terms of, offensive gameplay and output. They were just playing an uphill battle, and you can't start a game like that. You can't dig out of a hole like that against a tough team, especially on the road. When the stakes are on the line and there's implications for a playoff spot. So unfortunately, they are pretty much ruled out of the playoff. But hats off to Louisville. They showed up for this game. They didn't fall into the hype and come in ill prepared. They were ready to roll, and they pretty much dominated this game, especially on the ground game. 185 yards to 44 yards on the ground, and it played out in the time of possession. And they were just very efficient football team.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, but Louisville itself, we mentioned this on the show, I believe, 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of sneaky teams in this ACC like that were coming in a couple weeks ago ranked in top 25, but they're like the bottom. And we said that these games were going to be challenging for Notre Dame going forward. I was really disappointed to see Notre Dame lose this game, as I really, really think they had a very good chance to run the table and sneak into the playoff. I think this game for Notre Dame fans everywhere is just so frustrating to watch. Just turnover, pressure in your face. There's just really nothing, but like you felt like it was going to happen. You felt like this drive is going to be the drive. We're going to get a stop. We're going to get a score. And it just never was the case, unfortunately, on Saturday. I will say, hats off to Louisville, though. That is a good football team. Louisville is a sneaky team who is someone that you don't want to see right now. And Notre Dame has one of the hardest schedules in the country. And it sucks that they're already eliminated from the playoffs. Can't get in. No two-loss team has ever got in. And I know we're going to get into it in a bit, but I just really think they manhandle USC this week. And I really think Notre Dame was going to run the table. And it's tough to play these games. NC State, Duke, Louisville, all teams that are top 25 teams, but one of them is going to bite you. And unfortunately, this was the one.
I was just more disappointed in how they came out in that second half. They got outscored 26-13. I mean, that was just, it's one thing to come out slow to begin with on offense, but then to let the second half adjustments go to your opponent, it was just kind of it was a bit of a letdown. It really was.
Absolutely, and someone that we all thought. I know I wasn't on the pre-show or anything, but I know Matt. What is Hartman Heisman pick and that? Like I was all over it too. I really thought like this team was it, and like The thing that's like weird to me, now you're getting in the 12-team playoffs and everything. Maybe what Notre Dame's doing with their schedule isn't the way to go. You book all these games and you
Oh
book
yeah.
all these top 25 teams versus a team like Michigan and Penn State. They played the three of us and 8 other guys on the field the past couple weeks. Like it's just it really it makes you think like maybe you just need an Ohio State on your schedule and you lost to them close. And then maybe if you had all cupcakes the rest of the way, you would have snuck in and nobody would have said anything. But having these games on your schedule, man, it's gonna hurt you.
Oh, the pain, but it is what it is, right? It is
Matt,
what it is.
Nico brings up a great point, though. It'll be interesting to see how some of these bids, because a lot of these big head-to-head matchups, they're usually contracts written 5, 6, 7 years in advance. It'll be interesting to see how some of these independent teams and how some of these teams book out of conference, especially with the convergence of the Pac-12 dissolving into the other big four conferences, and how they strategize for a 12-team format will be very interesting.
And
Absolutely. And I remember you go, Matt.
I was gonna say, who's gonna have a difficulty doing that? UConn.
They can't get out of a wet paper bag. Let's move on.
I will say though, like a team like Penn State's a perfect example. They had that unbelievable team a few seasons ago, if you remember, with Trace McSorley, Barkley, and they were a 2-loss team, but a lot of people had them at number 4. A lot of people thought they should have been in the playoff, and now Penn State, they I know they played West Virginia, but besides that, they're playing UMass, they're playing all these teams, and I really think it's the way to go.
Delaware.
And it's until the committee's gonna. I mean, next year with 12 teams, it's gonna be different. But almost the committee to like wake up and just put a 2-loss team in. Like Notre Dame with this schedule, I 100% think if they run the table the rest of the way, should deserve to maybe be in the conversation. But the reality is, you're not, and the season's over, and it sucks.
Yeah. Oh man, but we'd love to watch it unfold. That's gonna be cool. That is going to be cool. So why don't we look ahead to week 7 and make some picks, y'all? Why don't we look and see what we have going for the 7th week of the college football season? And let's look at the real big games here. Okay, just one moment. Which one do I start with? We have Georgia. Georgia is playing Vanderbilt. They're going at Vandy. 31.5-point favorites. Michigan is going to Indiana. They're 33.5-point favorites. And then we have Ohio State at 3. They're playing Purdue at just 19.5-point favorites. We assume those 4 schools are just going to destroy and get whoopings going, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll easily cover their spreads, I'm sure, too.
And Nico Syracuse is going to Florida State. The 17.5-point favorite. Are we taking that?
Yeah, I really didn't get a great chance to look into that game as much as the other ones. One bet that I very sneakily like this week, and I want to be put on blast next week, so I do want you guys to remember this if I am wrong. I think Vanderbilt wins the first half. I think Georgia comes out and destroys them in the second half. I like Vandy first half money lines, like plus 800, or might even not be that high, might be like 600 or something. But I think Vanderbilt is gonna shock. I think this Georgia team, Alex mentioned it earlier, is a soft one, and I think we're gonna see signs of that every week from here on out. And yeah, that's the only game on those ones that you mentioned that I really think we're gonna see some trouble. But yeah, there's the noon slate this week is just a little rough.
Yeah, it is a weird week, but we can still make some bets, right? We can still make some bets.
Absolutely.
One other matchup we do have here that it can be talked about, and it looks like the best one on the board. We have number 8 Oregon going up against number 7 Washington. 3:30, big primetime game, very interesting Pac-12 matchup. Who are you taking in this one?
What's the spread right now?
Just -3 Washington.
Wow. Okay. As of now, I'm going to take Bo Nix and Oregon going in, and I'm going to take them by 1. I think this comes down to the wire. It's going to be a matter of who plays the cleaner game. because both have high-powered offenses. It's a matter of turnovers. I think that, with a short field here and an extra possession there, I think that whoever has the ball last will prevail, and I think that Oregon will get that opportunity.
No, yeah, I know we talked about it last week as well. I really love this Oregon team, and I think they're really good. However, with that being said, this is another division and another conference that's gonna eat itself alive, and they're just gonna beat up on one another. I like Washington in this, even though I still really think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12. I like Washington winning this game. I still think Oregon could get on later on the road with that, how good that conference is, and they're going to get more quality wins. And I still think Oregon will make the playoff deep down, but I really do think Washington does win this game on Saturday.
All right. Good stuff there.
Yeah.
Another big matchup we have the unranked Texas A&M going against the 19th ranked Tennessee. Where do we see this going?
I think Tennessee will beat a rout, just because I think that they're trying to crack back into that, top 10 range, top 15 range. They have more to prove, especially at their home, in front of their home crowd. Now, A&M plays everybody tough. They play Alabama tough. They play Georgia tough when they see them. But I think Tennessee will prevail. I don't know what the line is right now, but I think that they will cover it.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Tennessee -3.
Oh yeah, they'll cover that easily.
Yeah, believe it or not, this is a game where Alex, if you don't disagree, I'll have to, but I think I like Texas A&M here. I think that's my lean. One of my favorite bets I had it highlighted of the week so far. I usually give like a couple of my favorite bets out, but I like Tennessee's team total under 29.5 points. I really don't know how this team scores 30 plus versus a tough, solid Texas A&M defense. I think Texas A&M is going to sneak away out of Knoxville with a victory.
Ooh.
Okay. All right.
Bringing the hammer down with that one. So we also have we have another rivalry game this week. We have USC going to Notre Dame, 10th ranked USC going to 21st ranked Notre Dame. Notre Dame's opening as the favorites at -3. How is this rivalry game going to go?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying I think USC's defense is pathetic. Besides Caleb Williams, this team is just not good, in my opinion, besides Caleb Williams. The only thing, like, before this week, if you asked me this question on Friday, I really saw Notre Dame in a rout. The only thing that's hard for Freeman and company, a team like Notre Dame that has all these expectations coming into the year, and you're already out of the playoff come week 7, you gotta make sure your guys are still locked in. Still got big bowl games to play for. Still got big things to do this season. But I think Notre Dame still wins this game. Not as easy as I thought prior to the loss to Louisville. I thought they would really manhandle USC, but I do think Caleb Williams will get his numbers. I do think we're going to see him struggle more than we've seen him struggle in his whole career on this Saturday. But Notre Dame wins this game. I think Notre Dame wins it by a touchdown.
Interesting. Yeah, I was actually very surprised that they were favored at home, even with the way that they played last weekend. I understand like they're gonna get back to their winning ways because it's a matter of pride being back at home. It's a big rivalry, big marquee matchup in a big spot. But I just think that USC, again, they're a one-trick pony. They need to win a certain way, but I think that they can do it on the road in a contentious environment. Caleb Williams is unbelievable. He's the whole show. But I do think that their ground game, they're going to start picking apart and wearing down this offensive line for Notre Dame. I really like that running back Jones that they have. I think that he's going to start, opening up some holes and kind of controlling the clock and tempo of the game. But yeah, it's going to be a great game either way. I'm excited to tune in for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's always one of those games. Notre Dame might be in the green, something you'll love to see. I just love history about college football. Same thing last week, Red River, Oklahoma, Texas. It's just great to see these matchups. Really wish Notre Dame won last week, so it meant even more.
Classic right there. We have the 25th ranked Miami Hurricanes at 4-1 going to the undefeated University of North Carolina Tar Heels with Drake May and the boys. UNC only opening at -3.5. What's happening?
This is a sneaky game. I really like. I like the smell of an upset here. We talked about where our opinions were with Miami blowing that game this week. I think that they're pissed. I think they're hungry, and I think that UNC is underestimating Miami just in the bigger picture, the broader picture. I think that the way they hung tough with Florida State. I think North Carolina. I really like Drake May. I like this team and what they're building there, but I think this is one of those games where it's a little harder than advertised, even for the home team, and I think that it's going to come down to the wire. But um, this is like a game time pick for me, to be honest. I think it's a one possession game. It's a field goal game, but I'm going to have to give it to UNC for now.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a close battle. But I do have UNC winning. One thing that's going to be tough for this Miami team, a lot of young players on this team where they're going to see their name in the media a lot this week, and all for the wrong reasons, which we just discussed earlier about their coach just taking a knee and how bad that was, and myself included, bashing him because he deserves all the bashing. He deserves it all. But no, and UNC, this is a game where you have to win, and you have to be able to. The only reason why I wouldn't be surprised if UNC doing this game by a couple touchdowns, with an ACC that doesn't really have that like Clemson like they used to have, but they have Florida State right now. UNC doesn't play them, but maybe in the ACC title. But you have to win this game pretty comfortably to prove to the committee if you do have one loss or if you are undefeated and they have a decision to make come late December. This is one of those games that they'll look back on, and if you could prove that you handled this game pretty easily, I think they have a chance to really make a case for themselves. So give me UNC -3.5. I do think it will be a one possession game, but UNC really, really needs to try to win this game by double digits to really send a message.
All right. We also have the Missouri Tigers. Came off an embarrassing loss last week. They play the University of Kentucky. Kentucky's only opening at -2.5. Any interest to see where this goes?
Oh, I was very excited. I was very excited about this game. I sneakily like this Kentucky team. I think this is definitely a bounce back moment. Being 5-1, I feel like they're sniffing that they can move up the ranks pretty soon, pretty quickly. I really like what I see from this offense. And for Missouri, conversely, I think that they're kind of in a demoralization phase right now. So, Kentucky, they got blown out by Georgia, but they're looking to bounce back. I don't think that they're going to take anything for granted moving forward for the remainder of the season. And they have a lot of winnable games where they can prove themselves, in their hierarchy with the SEC. So I think that this is a pretty comfortable win for Kentucky, and I'm excited to see how it shakes out.
No, really good matchup. Like Alex mentioned, I'm really excited for this one as well. Something last week, Missouri, that +5.5, brutal pick six, absolute brutal pick six for all the bettors out there. You never want to lose a bet that way, but I have to disagree with Alex. I like Missouri this week. I do like Missouri pulls this one out. But like you said, close game. I really don't think any team manhandles this game either way. Wouldn't be surprised if Kentucky won. Wouldn't be surprised if Missouri won. But I have Missouri by a late field goal in this game, and I'm really looking forward to see what this team's going to look like after their first loss of the season.
What's going to happen with UCLA when they are going to Oregon State this weekend? And the spread is -3.5.
Oh man, this is a tough.
UCLA.
Yeah. It's negative. It's -3 UCLA.
No, sorry, -3.5 for Oregon State. Looking the wrong one.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think Oregon State is a tough team at home. This is another game that I have. I have high hopes for. My eyes on. I really like this matchup for Oregon State at home. I think it's a difficult, unfavorable matchup for UCLA just stylistically, but it's exciting. I'm hoping that I can stay up for it because this boy's got to sleep. But it's gonna be a great game to watch. And we're watching the Pac-12 unfolding. We're still trying to figure out where everybody's placement is. So I think this will be more of that conversation, the same, because I think there's tremendous upside for Oregon State if they can close this thing out at home.
Yeah, absolutely. This game's going to be a great game. I do have UCLA winning this game outright. With Chip Kelly, I do think they get the dub, but I will say, this is a big game for both teams where you're in a Pac-12. It's going to canalize itself. You both already have one loss. So losing this game puts you out of the playoff versus typically a conference like this in a game you see like a one-loss team, you're basically dead. But this year, a one-loss team I think is going to get in the Pac-12, and I really think it's going to be Oregon. But this is a game where both teams can have a chance to come on and come alive. And I do have UCLA winning this one, and I do have UCLA going on a bit of a run. And their schedule has a favorable schedule compared to Oregon State coming up, and I think we might be seeing UCLA sneakily be a top 10, top 7 team come December.
That's a good point, though, about UCLA. They definitely have a more favorable schedule because they finish off with USC and unranked Cal versus Oregon State, who has both Washington and Oregon back-to-back,
which is
brutal.
That defensive coordinator is going to have nightmares for 14 days. But I think, and like UCLA, if you see it now, like they can win, they can run that table. They have a chance, hey, we're all in, and this is the game that starts it all. This has to start your run.
All right.
Yeah. The only last thing I'm just not so confident with the last 2 weeks what I've seen. They've kept these games really close. Losing to Utah at home, and then having a tough game at home with Washington State. I don't feel. I guess for me, I just don't feel as confident with them going on the road to close out Oregon State. That's just me.
No, it's completely fair, and I think both teams are in the same boat. Where this really is going to start a stretch of winnable games. I don't believe Oregon State has, after this week, anything until that Oregon or Washington game and late. But they have a couple last 2 weeks. So yeah, I think this game really starts a win streak for either team and starts this Saturday.
A lot on the line. Hey, so UConn doesn't play this week. They're on a bye, but they actually beat Rice. They beat them 38-31. Did you see at all, Alex? Or did you give up?
No.
They won.
Yeah, good for them.
I had their team total under.
It's not a bad look. It's not a bad win. It is a Texas team technically. So, I'll take a W wherever I can get it. There's very few of them.
UConn football.
Hurley's on everybody's mind, and that's it. Everyone's just thinking about Coach Hurley and the boys.
But here's the thing, and Matt knows a little bit of this. I'm just pissed because when Edsel left, and he left for undisclosed reasons, there was a lot of shit coming down the pipe with him back when he went to Maryland. If he never fucking left Maryland, he would be on a tear right now because they had just beaten Notre Dame in a bowl game. They had just beaten I think they played OU in a bowl game the year before. I mean, they were really building shit. They were in a top 25 position year after year, and he left under suspicious circumstances. So I'm just upset because being a former season ticket holder, I saw what could have been, and I know that a lot of people that pack Wrestler Field in East Hartford would have seen the same thing too. So.
Oh, you silly UConn. All right. Final game to discuss here. We have North Carolina State University going to Duke. An in-state rivalry game. 17th ranked Duke. Duke is opening at -3.5. Are the Blue Devils going to continue this very impressive college football season?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, I think this team I do think they win. NC State was slightly overrated, I believe, going into the year, and we expected a lot more out of this football team. But hey, Duke played a great game against Notre Dame. Their only loss of the season versus a very good football team, and This is a matchup where another team that needs to win games and needs to win games like this pretty comfortably. When you're a 3-point favorite at home, these are the games that, if it ever gets down to it at the end, I know the ACC, it's tough to be in this conversation, but if it ever got to that point and the committee's going to look at stuff where certain BCS bowls become in play, you got to win games like this, but you just can't win them. You really got to send a statement. Even though it's supposed to be a close battle, if you can really dominate this game, win it by 2+ scores, which I really think they do, it sends a message to a lot of people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just to dovetail off that point, like, you got to close this game and close it early and be well rested and not overlook your opponent this week, because the classic trap is overlooking for 2 weeks to a formidable opponent like going on the road for Florida State. I don't want them to buy into the hype too soon, too quickly, get over their skis and overlook NC State and just come out flat. So if they can put them away early, get the guys rested. You have Florida State October 21st on a Saturday night. Presumably it's going to be must-see TV. So I hope and pray and I think that they will fulfill this win this weekend. But that would be my only hiccup and pause for concern.
All right, great stuff, gentlemen. Maybe this week doesn't have the strongest matchups, but it's still college football. We love it, and we're going to enjoy it. We'll be back here in a week from today to see how this potentially midweek unfolded, but maybe we have some surprises along the way. Nico and Alex, and thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
See you, buddy.
One last thing. There was a video that dropped of possibly Bigfoot being found in Colorado. Any quick thoughts on this? And do you believe it's true?
I'm tired of hearing about Colorado as a whole now. The whole football program, Colorado's canceled for me. No, but I didn't see it. I don't know how.
I have it right here.
It might be another primetime recruiting aspect. He might be like, we got Bigfoot up here now, so.
And put him behind center. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it right here. I don't know if you guys can see.
Barely, yeah. Looks like a big
You see someone moving?
Yeah, no, it's horseshit. I'm not saying I don't disbelieve in Bigfoot, but I just think, me being a peaceful anarchist, I just think the government's trying to psyop us to death so that we're demoralized. So floating all these fake little aliens in Mexico and doing these alleged autopsies are the same thinking with, giving us this half-assed, footage of Bigfoot walking through, God knows where in the fucking hills. I don't give a shit.
Oh, man, we will see what happens in Colorado. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
I'm just cynical and cranky. Leave me alone.
It's all good. Time for you to go to sleep. That's right. All right, see you later, guys.